So welcome back. What an incredible morning. What an incredible performance by the Springboks. And just a couple of thoughts about that victory. Just thought I'd put it into a quick video, quick hot take. Just finished watching the All Blacks as well. What a performance by Argentina. And we'll get to that tomorrow in the video. But today, I think I'm going to concentrate just on the Boks and just on that victory and just how big a thing it is for them at this moment to win in Brisbane. So some of you probably won't know, but I've toured across the world with the Springboks quite a bit, and I've been to Australia, I think 9 times, and I've seen the Springboks win once. That was in Brisbane in 2013, the famous Zane Kirchner, Villiers Leroux combo at the back there that really destroyed the Aussies. But Brisbane, I've been there 3 or 4 times where the Boks have lost, and for some reason, the Boks always find a way of losing in Australia. And so it's become a bit of their boat. They've got a terrible record. They've only won 3 times in Brisbane since before today, since 1995, and that's a hell of a record to have. Now, I know we've had some good Springbok sides and some bad Springbok sides, and the Wallabies have had some good Wallaby sides and some bad Wallaby sides. But yeah, today's win, 33-7 for the Boks, what an emphatic victory. And while yeah, there are some asterisks, some caveats in terms of who they played and how they played. Certainly shouldn't be scoffed at. To win by 30 points in international rugby is always something to celebrate. There's still lots of hard work for the Boks. There's a lot of things still they need to do, and they are an evolving team. Even though they're back-to-back World Cup champions, they still are very much an evolving team. So, yeah, they were 33-0 up. Australia scored in the last 5 minutes when the Boks had 3 yellow cards. So let's address that first of all. I'll probably be doing a separate video on some of those cards, especially Andrew Kellaway's one and Malcolm Marx's one. So keep an eye out for that. So I'm not going to handle them too much here, but just in terms of those yellow cards, it was to me quite ridiculous. And I'll go into more detail in the other video that that dropping a player on his head is seen as the same as not rolling away or deliberately knocking down a rugby ball. The yellow card offences, no problems with the yellow cards for Jesse Creel or Marco van Staden. Boks were warned before Marco van Staden. He was just unfortunate. Thought Tate McDermott played a bit of an Oscar, but he got away with it. So that be that as it may. The Boks ended up with 13 men, 3 yellow cards in the last 10 minutes. Certainly not disciplinary record that they want. They were so good until then. And if it wasn't for those yellow cards, I doubt Australia would have been able to score. But they did, so it wasn't a whitewash, and the Boks probably left 30-odd points out there on the park. They could have won by a lot more. But you're playing away from home, and certain things aren't working, and the Boks are still an evolving side. There's a lot of ifs and buts, and if so-and-so did that, the Boks would have scored more, and I think they'll have a look at it. They'll be very honest with themselves. They'll take a long, hard look at the entire situation, and they'll be back better because they'll want to put the hammer down next week and get a great victory, to go into the home leg against the All Blacks, in a dominant position in the Rugby Championship. But yeah, first of all, I mean, those 3 yellow cards, that means that 5 yellow cards in the last 2 games, 2 against Portugal as well. That's not a disciplinary record the Boks will won. That's not a disciplinary record that they've really had under Rassie Erasmus. They've been very good, normally in internationals. But that's just something they're going to have to address. You can't give away yellow cards against good teams. And better teams will probably punish you. So that's the first thing. Second of all, let's look at the players that did pretty well. And I'll get into some of the stats just now, but here's just some initial thoughts. Sasha Feinberg Mngomezulu was exceptional for me. He was played around, experience around him. He shanked his first kick, but then he settled in and really played like a seasoned professional, and the kid's got talent. I don't think we need to tell anybody the kid's got talent, and I think one of the more exciting parts was when Andre Pollard joined and played at 12. The Boks really looked quite dangerous on attack. In general, the Boks attacking play was way better than the Aussies. In the first half, Australia hardly ever made into the Bok half. They found a lot of width. They were able to create a lot of chances. And even then, I mean, even with that, for instance, when Sasha broke through the line there and gave it to Villiers Leroux, there were 2 players on his outside. I think it was Cheslin and and Jesse Creel that was on his outside. And if Vinny didn't break to the inside, he did that because he bobbled the ball probably and got the ball out. It would have been a certain try. So the Boks fluffed a chance there. They fluffed another chance when Vinny almost got the grabber through for him. We chased it down and just hit the line when he touched it down. Those are 50-50 things. Cheston almost scored in the opposite corner in the second half. And there's a number of those factors that they'll go through about chances that they missed. International rugby doesn't offer you too many chances, so hopefully, yeah, they learn from that and they know they're going ahead. They need to get better, but they are an evolving team. They're playing a different game plan. They're playing with a lot more width, and you're going to make mistakes. And when it clicks, it's going to click beautifully. But till it clicks, they're in a situation where it's going to be one of those situations where they'll do a lot of good things well, and they'll do a lot of make a lot of mistakes which will frustrate us. So I think a little bit of patience is needed there. You can't really complain after winning away from home overseas 33-7. So this is not a complaint. There's just we should be patient because there's a lot more in this team. Then this next thing, I think for the first time, the Boks can really feel that they've got a chance to be dominant between World Cups. They've been an exceptional team in World Cups. They've won 4 World Cups. They've been great in World Cups. But between World Cups, they've struggled, even under Rassie Erasmus. But now they have a chance to actually dominate between World Cups. I know it's early days. We're just fresh from the Ireland-drawn Test series. But if you look at where Springbok rugby is at the moment, you've got a bunch of guys who are back-to-back World Cup winners who are slowly going to start passing that baton to the younger generation, and there is a lot of talent coming through. I just made a list here today. I just want to get it up quickly of players that weren't here today who would have probably been playing in this game if it wasn't for injury. Steven Kitshoff, Franco Mostert, Lou de Jager, R.G. Snyman, who withdrew just before the game, Jean Klein, who was in the World Cup squad, Jasper Visser, Faf de Klerk, and Damien Willemse. That's just 8 players off the top of my head, and yeah, I just looking at that, they would have been in this game probably, but it shows you without 8 players, the Boks was still extremely dominant, and the guys who came through really did well. Ben Jason Dixon, a shout out to him. He made 19 tackles. He came in at the last minute, was supposed to be on the bench when R.G. Snyman and Ron Nortje got injured just before the game. The Boks shifted Pieter-Steph du Toit to lock, brought Ben Jason Dixon in at 8, and put Salman Marat on the bench. Now, Ben Jason Dixon made 19 tackles in a dominant performance where the Springboks were so dominant. That just tells you the work rate, what he does, everything across the field. And he's got a huge engine on him, and I've been severely impressed with the kid since he's got to the Boks as well. He's certainly making a name for himself. He's impressing a lot of people, and at the moment, he looks like the heir apparent for Pieter-Steph du Toit. Saying that, Pieter-Steph du Toit wasn't bad, although he had a bit of a different role playing at lock. He still made 14 tackles. Great effort from him as well. So there's a lot to be positive about with the Springboks going in this game, first of all. 21-0 up at halftime. First half, even though they fluffed a few tries, they were good value. And let's look at that first try. We had a bit of innovation as well. We had Cheston Colby putting in the ball at scrum half, throwing in the ball at lineouts. We've seen Antoine Dupont do it in sevens, but Cheston doing it in a 15s game just shows how versatile and how the guys are ready to embrace anything different. We had some innovation with the first try, with the 2 line-out pods going up, Ben Jason Dixon going up at the back, and then passing the ball back to Eben Etzebeth, and then corkscrewing around for Sia to score. That caught the Aussies off guard. It's something that a lot of teams will be watching and playing over and over again and seeing if they can implement it. But that's nothing new. We've seen the Boks innovate with 7-1 benches, with a bunch of things with the move. In the 2019 World Cup, we've seen a lot of stuff that they do that comes to fruition, and this is just another one. So there's a lot to be positive about in this Brisbane performance. The other debutant, well, not debutant, the other guy, youngster getting his shot, Elric Lowe, really put in some dominant carries, really looked good with the ball in hand. I still feel he should pass a little bit more, but that's just me. But other than that, he puts his head down and he goes forward. 14 carries for him, really had a great game as well. The first half, I think when as much as I say that there was so much positive, the Boks should have been a lot further ahead than 21-0. I suppose in a way, you're also going to put this caveat in that Australia are number 9 in the world. They're sandwiched between Italy at number 7 and Fiji at number 10. Or Italy number 8, Fiji number 10. And that really tells you where they are at the moment. Joe Schmidt is rebuilding them, and I'm sure by the time the next World Cup comes, they'll be a lot better. I think the British and Irish Lions will be licking their lips at going to Australia next year. I don't see them beating the Lions next year, not at this point, unless they improve significantly. And it's not impossible. They can. Russie took a team from nowhere to World Cup champions in 18 months, so it could easily be done. But Joe Schmidt's got a tough task in his hands, and it's going to be really difficult to get them up. So you're going to look at who they are, but you can only play who's in front of you. And given the demons that the Boks have had to go through, all the stuff they've had in the past in Australia, and the difficulty they've had in winning in Australia, they buried the ghost in Brisbane today. I don't think people realize how significant that is for the Springboks. I think it's huge for them mentally, because it was a thing where they've always found ways of losing in Australia. Now, if you remember what happened 2 years ago in Adelaide, the Boks were on top in that test. They won the second test, but the first test, there was the illegal tackle from Marika Kuribete, which he wasn't penalised for, which took Makazole Mapimpi out, and we should have scored. It should have been a red card or a yellow card and a penalty try. It wasn't given. The Aussies celebrated like it was the end of the world. The rest of us stood here, threw our hands up in disbelief, and we couldn't understand why it wasn't given.
Backwards, all backwards.
And in de Klerk finds and Mapimpi. Makazole Mapimpi!
What a tackle, what a tackle. Kurambeti. You can see why
And then we had the Oscar-winning performance of Nick White with Faf de Klerk touching him on his moustache and him falling as if he was hit by a ton of bricks. And the Aussies got away with it. They tend to get away with it. I mean, I remember all the stuff every time we went there as journalists to cover the Springbok tours. There was always something, and there's always something they get away with that the Boks lose the game. For once, the Boks had the mental and physical dominance to make sure that this was never going to happen. Fair enough, this is a much weaker Australian team than they played in the past, but this was never going to happen today. The second try was beautiful with some great moves there. 8 phases. Sasha putting the bullet pass into Pieter-Steph du Toit's hands. 14-0 up. 21-0. They should have been a lot more up by that stage. To me, the try of the match was Jesse Krill in the second half. Where he broke through and put Kurt-Lee Arendse away for his second try. But Kurt-Lee Arendse, there's another guy. I mean, just what an amazing performance by him again. 2 tries. He just keeps on racking it up. And it won't be long before he starts to catch up the top try-scoring guys on the records. He's really at the top of his game at the moment. And to have 2 scrum cap wingers like that is a nightmare for any other team. To me, the Boks already at the moment, what was been great, what we haven't mentioned was just how devastating the scrum was. It was ridiculous how the Boks dominated the Wallabies. As I say, in the past, the Wallabies have found ways of getting past that. They found ways of keeping the scrum up. And I think there were 2 scrums or 3 scrums in the entire game. I could be wrong, but 2 or 3 scrums in the entire game that didn't go to penalty, that weren't won by the Boks. That was certainly something exceptional from the Boks, and it's going to take a very good scrum to stop them. So when you've got that set-piece dominance to start with, their lineouts were just as good. They struggled. The Aussies struggled a lot in their lineouts as well. You put them under a lot of pressure in the lineouts, and then you've also got the wingers that can attack, and the Boks look for width from wherever they can. Jesse's try was the second try from Jesse's break was scored from inside their own half. They weren't scared of running out of their own 22, of their own try line, and I think we're going to see that a lot more as we go on. They're going to get a lot more confidence. The passes are going to start sticking. And once the confidence comes and the belief comes, and they train it in over and over and over again, it's going to get a lot better. Of course, it comes with high risk, and they were almost caught out once or twice. I think the one where Kobus Reinach passed the ball through his legs to Rob Simmons, things could have gone a bit different in that second half with that. The Aussies certainly came back in the second half, but that was the other impressive thing from Brisbane, their defence. Their defence was sensational on the day. Jerry Flannery will be crowing about that in the Boks change room. Yeah, that was certainly a Jacques Nienaber-ish performance where they just wouldn't let the Wallabies in. It says a lot that the Wallabies took 75 minutes to actually cross the try line, and that was when the Boks were down to 13. So that says a lot. Well done, Jerry Flannery. Great, exceptional defence on the day, and you got lots to be proud of. So let's look at some of the stats here. Australian, this is the Australian attack. You can see nobody really made more than 23 meters. Yeah, the guys who carried the most, Rob Valentini, 29 meters, 30 meters for Salakayo Loto. They were both good, but they were just dominated by the Springboks, and no real. I mean, there's defenders beaten there, but it shows just how well the Boks scrambled at times. Nothing that really stands out there. Now let's compare these figures to the Springboks and just look at the difference there. 53 meters for Villaroo, 58 for Jesse, 107 for Kurtley, 48 for Peter Steff, 40 for Eben Etzebeth. Just totally different figures. A lot more carries, a lot more meters, a lot more defenders beaten. Yeah, there's a lot more passes. Yeah, there's certainly a lot more going on there for the Boks when it comes to that. Yeah, they did exceptionally well. Now, let's look at the defensive stats, and this is always interesting to see. This is Australia, of course, their defensive stats. And this is also interesting. You look at the amount of tackles. Colo Tizana on debut, the most tackles made by them, and they were under a lot of pressure. Rob Valentini, 14. Yeah, really. But you look at the missed tackles, then again, Luka and Salakayo Loto made 13 tackles, 7 missed tackles, 4 missed tackles for Lalisio. You can see where they made most of their tackles, and a couple of turnovers for Jake Gordon and Valentini. Valentini had a good game, I must admit. He really was one of the standouts there as well. But that's their defensive stats. Then let's look at the Springboks' defensive stats. And here's where it gets quite interesting, because if you look at that, Sasha made 12 tackles, missed 4, but I mean, yeah, fair enough. It was his. Yeah, Flyers often do miss tackles, made 1 turnover. Ben Jason Dixon, 19 tackles in the dominant performance. Elric Lowe made 8, he missed 1. Peter Steff de Toy, 13. Oxen Chair made 9, missed 2. And then the turnovers 1, Kurtley, Sasha, and Gerard Steenekamp. That was a huge one of Gerard Steenekamp when he made that turnover as well. Great workload by him as well. Let's just get past the next ones, looking at different stats. This one is courtesy of Rugby Pass. Unfortunately, we don't get too many good stats around here. And so this one, the match summary, yeah, you can look there, the Boks, 142 carries, 9 line breaks. They lost 15 turnovers. They won't be happy about that. 5 tries to 1, though, but that's quite a dominant performance as well. And if you look at the other stats that are coming up here now, carries, Peter Steff de Toy, 12. Villaroo 9, not surprising. The Boks spread it quite wide. Line breaks, Kurtley Aronsa 3. Tackles competed, Colo Tizana and Ben Jason Dixon the same. Turnovers lost, Dylan Pitch 3, although I must admit he was quite close on a couple of those. Nothing really there. Turnovers 1, the Aussies dominate that one, but it was the turnovers that the Boks didn't want to lose. And then Jesse Krill heading the dominant tackles in the game. Look at some of the stats there. Territory, if you look at that, Boks 52% territory. Not often you get that back, and 52% possession as well. Although the last 10 minutes, quite interesting, 91% Australia, mainly because the Boks were down to 13. Set plays, 8 scrums by the Boks. I think most of them ended up in scrum penalties. I think 5 or 6 of them. Of course, Kwagga's try was scored off one that didn't go to try and get the scrum penalty there. 16 lineouts, 88% win. Australia had a 90% win. Interesting. But I thought the Boks lineout was quite better on the day. Attack, you look there, passes pretty much the same. 142 ball carries. Post-contact meters is a crucial one. 287 to 161. 9 line breaks. Quite easy to see which is the dominant team there. Then turnovers won, turnovers lost, and that will be a stat that the Boks don't like, that turnovers lost, as I said before. Penalties, Australia conceded 15, the Boks conceded 12, although a string of those was in the last 10 minutes when they got the 3 yellow cards. And then defense, the one that matters, Australia missed 29 tackles, the Boks missed 18. But it's interesting that the Boks actually made quite a few tackles. When you think how dominant they were, that the tackle stats are pretty much the same. So that's quite an interesting one as well. And kicks, this is just one for the last one. Total kicks 25 for the Boks, 21. One in every 8 kick to pass ratio, one in every 6.9 to the Boks. But still, this is a Boks team that doesn't kick as much as they used to and spreads the ball a lot more wide. So where does that leave the Boks now? Well, they're going to the second test. I can see them making a couple more changes. You might see a couple more youngsters, Johan Krobler, young Hendrik Wessels, those type of guys getting a shot as well. You might see them making some other changes as well. So it'd be quite interesting to see what they come up with this week. They know if they win another game against Australia, they know they pretty much in the pound seat, especially because the All Blacks lost the opening game. And then they go into the home test against the All Blacks full of confidence. So there is a real opportunity to try some new blood in this next one. Maybe not everywhere. Expect 1 or 2 extra changes. Maybe expect a front row change or a swap of the front row. That should be quite interesting. Of course, we haven't seen what Bongi's injury is, and if it's really serious, but it doesn't look that way. Sorry, that's just strange when your phone's voice assistant just starts talking to you. I'm sure it happens to everybody, but it's quite weird when you're filming a video. So yeah, quite a bit to consider this week. There's quite a bit of work for the Boks. I don't think they were as accurate as they could have been. I think in their reality, they probably say they left about 30 points on the park. They'll want to be a lot more clinical next week. They'll want to be a lot better. And I think they feel they can put the hammer down against the Aussies, especially in Perth, where they're going to go later that evening and go watch Strickers to perceive a fight. So there'll be a lot of motivation for them, a lot of those sort of pictures we'll probably see around the week heading into the game. And Australia, I'm not sure where they go from here. I think they'll want to sort of take the 20 minutes in the second half and try and work on that and try and be a bit better. But when your scrum's backpedaling, when the Boks are physically dominant, it's going to be very difficult to come back against them. I can't see anything less than a Springbok victory next week. Be interesting who's chosen, who's there, and who is, what's the combinations they use. But winning is the first thing. The 5 points on offer for the Rugby Championship. They want to win the Rugby Championship. That's the next thing that they want to achieve. And then, of course, come back and to play the All Blacks in 2 tests on a bit of a roll. So that's going to be the cue for the next week. It's in all, a great performance, a great night in Brisbane. A win to remember, even though it was against the weakened Australian team. I know a bunch of people might scoff at that thought, but to be very honest, when you've toured Australia a number of times and you've watched the Springboks lose there a number of times, you find it very hard not to be overjoyed and excited about this and the prospect of the Boks dominating in the Rugby Championship as well. Of course, there is another argument, and we can maybe visit that in another video, of just how far Super Rugby has fallen since South Africa's left, and how much the Northern Hemisphere is benefiting from South Africa being in the European competitions. It's quite an interesting topic as well. But certainly on the face of it at the moment, there's a sense that Super Rugby is maybe taking a step backwards. Without the physicality of South Africa, some of the teams are struggling, Australia especially. Of course, it's a bit of ironic for those of us who covered Super Rugby for so long and had to read every year how the Aussies felt they needed to go alone without South Africa, and how those sort of arguments kept on coming up. And now that they have, you look where Australian rugby is now. I'm not saying it's all just that simply related. There's obviously a lot more complex to it, but it's obviously something that's certainly worth exploring in another video. Just on that, though, one thing, last point to sign off on, how great was the Brisbane crowd? So great to see so many South Africans out there, so many green and gold jerseys, and long may it continue. May the Boks get just as big a crowd in Perthfontein next week, and may all the expats rock up there, and for Drickus' fight later. But it's a great start to Saturday morning. It was a great morning to watch a bit of rugby, and the Boks certainly didn't disappoint. So on that note, I'm going to leave you with this, and we'll chat to you again. If you haven't already, smash that subscribe button. Leave your comments below what you thought the big moments in the game was. I read all the comments, but it's great chatting to you. And thanks for watching it. Good to chat to you again. Cheers.